Yeah,
Still
exactly,
fighting.
the other thing.
Very nice meeting
That
you.
remains unnamed,
The other
unmentioned.
thing,
The other thing.
is that like Voldemort? I don't know.
That's good. We're just working at, we have 2 of our committee members are on phone, or on the conference thing, but we don't know how to work it to get everybody in the same call.
Is it-
And Neil, did you?
Hi,
meet
Peter
each other?
Smokowski.
Hi, Peter. Glad to meet
So maybe during public comment, which we always start with, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Sure.
I'm sorry that you won't see the other people in
Okay.
person, but.
Yeah, absolutely.
with you.
Did the state extend their remote meeting rules, or did they?
The meeting rules, I think they're valid through March 30th,
Yeah.
and the legislature is sitting on, I think there's some discussion about what they make permanent,
Yeah.
what the permanent sort of,
you. They were
And then
working
if
on
they-
something.
yeah, and if they don't agree on the permanent, then they're gonna, I had been told that they were gonna extend the current order
Yeah.
for like another, I don't know, 2 months. But there are a couple different versions out there of what the rules will be.
Yeah.
So our committee was meeting,
There,
we were
that's-
meeting on Zoom for about 3 years, and we just got, everybody wanted to meet in person. Answer. Hello.
Hi there.
Hi. So Christine walked upstairs to try to get somebody to help us with the phone.
Okay, do you want me to hang up and I'll call back, or what?
Yeah, why don't you do that? Why don't you do that, it's easier.
All right.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
I didn't see any cars outside when I came up. No one was parked on the street, no one was parked.
Mm-hmm,
And I saw folks from upstairs walking in.
yep.
I thought, did I miss something? Did we have a cancellation?
No, we did not.
But there was nothing there, no warnings.
Well, the in-person meetings do add a lot of value, but I have to admit that Zoom is really efficient,
It is.
very efficient.
It is, it definitely is. Yeah, no, so there were definitely some, there were pluses and then there's, some discussion of like, do you have to have a Zoom in capability? Because now that everybody's gotten used to Zoom, they want the ability to join a meeting remotely. But the technology for that apparently is not super easy, and it also takes attention of a staff member to watch the Zoom and make sure those people are led into the waiting room, and
There's a lot of
So,
complications.
there's a lot of complication, yeah. So my plan was to wait until the legislature votes on what's required of us, and then we can like look at what the options are, and the group will make a decision. To go from there.
We had a book group meeting the other day, and they used the
Are you-
owl,
Oh, they do.
and it,
Was it bad? Is it good?
owl is not a good system.
Hello, Buzzy.
I got disconnected. Is everybody there?
So, Christine is upstairs trying to figure out how to use the phone, and then she's gonna come back down. Susan hung up and she's waiting to call back.
All right, I'll hang up and wait. Shall I call back a little bit?
Yeah, well, why don't you wait? I'll text you when Christine comes back downstairs.
Wait, what?
You can hang up. You don't have to stay on the line.
Just text me. Okay, dear. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye, hon.
Bye.
Is Michael there, I assume?
Yeah.
So that's a couple more people.
Yep, exactly.
It's,
Oh,
Far
there's a
more-
CPC meeting tonight, right?
yes,
Yeah.
there is. Are you making a presentation?
I'm making a presentation. Very informal,
Well, we'll
but.
see you there. I don't think it needs to be formal. I just downloaded the meeting minutes. I haven't seen meeting minutes from our last meeting.
Oh, Christine forwarded those with the agenda.
I didn't
I
print
printed
them
them.
out.
I printed them. Do you want to read them?
Yes, I
Why don't you
would
read them while we're waiting?
be really happy to do that. Then I can say I have to wait and look.
Okay, hold on. I know I printed them out this morning. Okay.
Ah.
So they both said they would call back.
Okay.
So I told them, I'd let them know
Yeah, and he said that maybe we should have a cell phone. Mine doesn't have much battery left, but would you mind calling them and doing it on your phone? He wasn't sure actually how to do it on this to have more than one person. He had a cheat sheet for the phones upstairs.
Oh my word.
But he
Okay.
thought they were different. Or we could have one person on this and one person on the cell phone.
I mean,
I just
let
don't
me
know if we
try.
have.
I mean, I don't mind using my cell phone, I just wonder about the sound quality. Here, let me call Susan. Let's try doing it all on my phone.
Is there, when you have two people on one phone line and do you have to hear their voices? How do you verify there's actually two people there on one phone line?
On this phone?
Just in general, like if you have one phone line and two people are calling in, you can't see, do you have to hear
Oh,
them?
you mean verifying that like Buzzy and Michael are both there? Is
Yeah,
that what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
got
that
it.
sort of thing. Like,
Oh.
how does that
I
work?
mean, I think that that's on a matter of faith. They announce themselves initially, so I know that they're there, and
So each
there's no
participant.
requirement that I audit them to make sure that they're
So
staying
each
on the phone.
participant doesn't need a phone number, in other words.
Correct.
And Leon said that we're good, as long as you have a quorum, it doesn't matter.
Oh,
It's in
great.
your quorum.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So, the upstairs folks don't know for sure how to do the conference on the machine. So the question for you is, can you hear okay? I'm gonna have Neil speak. And can you hear okay? This is through my cell phone. You wanna say something?
I can certainly say something. Hello and good morning.
Good morning, Neil.
How's that, is that clear as a bell for you?
It's not clear as a bell, but I can hear it.
You can hear it? Okay.
Yeah.
If at any point you're not hearing well, you have to shout and let us know. Okay?
Sounds like a plan, thank you.
Good. Let's use
And
Buzzy
I
and
can
Mike
try
on
to speak
this
more
conference because their
loudly.
hearing is not super great.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Do you have her phone number, actually?
Buzzy's phone number, I do, yeah. I can,
Yeah, I think you just.
I can just text her and tell her to call.
Oh, yeah, yep.
I told her that's what I would do.
Okay.
Buzzy.
I had questions about
Okay. And then we will begin. So Susan, just so you know who is in the room, Diane is in the corner with the camera, but she's just head out to the restroom. Christine is here, Neil is here, I am here, and then Peter, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Smokowski.
Smokowski.
I'm here as a representative of the Dixon Meadow Condominium Trust.
Oh,
Peter and I had a really nice conversation the other day, and he was interested in what we're doing, and is here today, so that's great.
the more the merrier.
Exactly. Especially when Peter tells us about his background.
Were you a juggler in the circus?
Yes,
You might
that's
say that.
just about as exciting, right? Flame, a sword swallower.
I would wait.
We're just waiting for Buzzy to call in and see if she doesn't.
I wish this were more straightforward.
Can I give you Buzzy's phone number to, oh, here she calls.
Where's the green one? Oh, is she there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hello.
Hi. And Michael had to go and check a fuse. He
Okay.
said, fuck, it went off.
Oh my
Are you
goodness.
sitting in the dark?
No, it's light out, Neil.
Well, I don't have my glasses on, and I can't tell.
Yeah. It's for the dishwasher and the disposal. That's what
Oh
it
my
is.
goodness.
So we're starting the breakdown early, before the storm.
Oh, good.
That's
Get out
not
of the
good
way.
timing at all.
Wow.
No.
So-
Anyway, so you can count him here, but believe me, he's here. He's just
Okay.
a flash.
Okay, great. Will you have, when he comes in, just have him,
Yeah.
pipe in and say hello.
Say something.
Okay, will
Okay.
do.
We
Yeah.
have a quorum to start our meeting, which is great. This is not gonna be a super long meeting, which is good news for everybody.
Not gonna be a wish meeting?
super long. It will not be a super long meeting,
That's okay.
Good,
but it is gonna be a helpful meeting.
excellent.
So we are going to not adjourn, we're gonna commence the meeting.
Yeah, sure.
And because folks are on telephones, we're just gonna read out, shout out whoever's here. So I'm here. Christine?
Yeah, Christine McKenna-Locke from the RHSO.
Peter Smokowski from Dixon Meadow Condominium Trust.
The 11th.
Diana Chaplin,
Thank you.
citizen, not.
Just a minute. Say I'm here.
I'm here.
Say I'm here.
I'm here.
Hi, Michael.
That guy.
How's the fuse?
All right, so we're all
Okay.
here?
All right, guys. We're getting serious. Okay, great. Public comment period. I don't need to announce anything because there's nothing, there's no governor's order applicable at the moment. As I mentioned, Peter and I had a nice call on the phone the other day, and
Sure.
you don't feel like you have to say anything today, but I just wanted
Well,
a
no,
chance to.
I'd like to.
Yeah.
So I've been a resident of the town of Weston since 2015. And I was very attracted to the Dixon Meadow community because of the affordable housing mix in it. It's relatively small, it's 18 homes, 6 of them are affordable, and 1 is moderate. Last fall, we had a moderate unit go on the market, and after the period of time that it sat on the market, it wasn't sold, and it was converted to a market rate home. And it was sold for $1,150,000. And those proceeds, after expenses and the previous owner received their share, based on the requirements of the restricted deed, went to the town of Weston. I believe they were segregated, they should be segregated for the Affordable Housing Trust, but I'm not certain about that. And I think I still have to look at the deed. So I met with the town manager last week just to start a conversation about Dixon Meadow. The construction was completed in 2020 and 2021. So these homes are now starting to age.
20, you mean
I'm sorry, 2001.
2001,
2001,
right.
thank you.
Right, that.
Maintenance is starting to come due on these homes. We will likely do roof replacement. We have a number of homeowners who need to do window replacement. And the master deed and the trust bylaws are very clear as to what a condominium trust responsibility is for repairs and maintenance, and what a homeowner responsibility is for repairs and maintenance. And what we're finding is affordable homeowners are struggling to meet those responsibilities. And so I came to have a conversation about how Weston might do what some of the other towns do in the regional housing services office do, where they have repair grants or capital improvement grants so that these homeowners can do this work. My background, I was a vice president at Boston University for over 20 years. I spent most of my career at BU and technology. I retired from BU in December of last year. So with more time, I've started to kind of take a closer look at what's happening in our community and really what some of the other communities are doing. And in my role at BU, I was responsible for housing. Undergraduate and graduate student housing. We had one of the largest housing systems in the country. During my time there, I brought over $500 million of new construction and renovations online. I was responsible for student recreation and our sports club programs.
hence the juggling?
Our dining,
Sorry.
our dining program, one of the largest dining programs in the country. We served about 6 million meals a year. Our parking and transportation reported to me, our events and conferences, and a number of other areas. So when you think about a college and university for revenue streams, there's generally tuition. Everyone really understands that. There's grants and research, and then there's auxiliary services. I was the auxiliary services part. So pretty much all the business areas of the institution reported to me. So in my role there, I've learned over time, deferred maintenance, whether it's residential or commercial, is the most expensive maintenance there is. And as our homeowners age, and most of the affordable homeowners are retired, If they don't maintain their homes, when these homes transition to a new owner, I don't want to see what happened to the affordable homes or to the moderate home this past year happen to the affordable homes, where those homes get into a state of disrepair, particularly around water penetration and building envelope, because the homeowners don't have the resources to replace them. So I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about affordable homeowner access to resources where they can maintain their property. And I want to avoid the trust being involved in forcing a homeowner to do that and then taking on those obligations. And then it leads to a whole bunch of legal issues.
You mean the condo trust?
Condo
Yeah,
trust,
just-
yeah.
Yeah, just for clarity purposes, yeah.
So really it's kind of a long preamble, but very interested, when these homes reach this tipping point, it's generally the 25th year of age to the 30th year. Windows need to be replaced, bulkheads need to be replaced, doors may need to be replaced. And I had an affordable homeowner come to me who needs 9 new windows, and the replacement cost for 9 new windows was $36,000.
That's extreme.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Again, we're in citizens comment?
Mhm.
Yeah, I wanted to know, are all of your homeowners in the complex up to date with their town taxes?
I don't know.
With
I
the
think,
what?
I think there may be a moderate and affordable homeowner that they may be in arrears on taxes.
Okay. So-
That I don't have knowledge of.
And I would just also say that in the setting, we'll just try not to be too particular about people's financial situations. The one clarification question I wanted to just ask you again. So at some point, for the things that are the condo association's responsibility, so I'm guessing the roof,
Yeah,
yeah. The condo association will plan for an assessment, and then each of the owners will have to pay that assessment within a particular time.
yes,
Got it.
yeah. So whatever
So that would be like-
reserves don't cover,
Uh-huh.
we will do assessments.
Okay, got it. And then when we were chatting the other day, you were projecting like maybe a year out from now. I mean, I know, I'm not holding you to it.
We
I'm
will
just
start roof
giving us a-
replacement likely in 2024, sometime in 2024 or 2025.
Got it.
We've done a study of the roofs. We've done a reserve study using one of the engineers. That's what they do in terms of understanding what the useful life is. And the goal is to get the useful life out of the programs.
Mhm.
But once it gets there, we won't delay.
Okay, got it. And then for
Homeowners
the
will
other
be-
things, those are things where you may know that people are having issues and they're their individual responsibility, and your concern is that they're not gonna be able to keep up.
Well,
And-
one example is we required garage doors to be replaced, and we started that program 2 years ago.
Uh-huh,
We're now 2 years in, and we still have 2 homeowners who haven't done it.
wow.
So I just try to avoid us having to step
Yeah.
in and start doing that work, and then assessing the homeowner, and then
Mm-hmm.
having to do that
Yeah.
stuff. And that was relatively modest. 2 years ago, a garage door was about $2,400. Today, it's $3,600 to $3,800. So the delaying, particularly in this hyperinflation that we're in, is not a smart move financially.
Hyperinflation, rising construction costs in general, and availability. All of those
Yeah.
are driving everything up.
So when it comes to roofs, the association's responsible for the exterior surface of the roofs. It's not responsible for skylights. We'll require those to be replaced. It's not responsible for gutters. And it's not responsible for anything under the roofs. If we find anything under the roofs, that'll all trigger back to a homeowner responsibility.
Under the roof, meaning the support surfaces underneath.
So, thank you very much for that public comment, and it's helpful for us to think about as we're talking about things today and in the future. Buzzy, Michael, Susan, any questions before we get started?
There's nothing, the homeowners fund, that we have. We can't use that.
That's
Say it
what I
again, the
was-
homeowner, the windfall from the homeowner sale? Is
No.
that,
Yeah,
so, No, Buzzy, that's not in the housing trust coffers, if you will, in our ledger, whatever. But there, I've had a discussion with Leon about what he thinks might be a process for us requesting some of those funds
Yeah,
for housing, affordable housing purposes or housing support purposes.
yeah.
And he asked that if we have a good idea, to put it in writing to him, and that he will float it up the flagpole of both town council and the select board if it's, you know, legal, which I'm sure it would be.
How much money is in this, you know?
When we were meeting with the treasurer the other, this is ballpark, so northwards of $600,000. I thought it was between 600 and 800. I know that's a big range. But
Yeah.
we'll get a firm answer from the treasurer so we know what the pot of money is. And it's currently held, I mean, it's in the, you know, it's in the town's, you know, municipal funds. And it's governed by the deed rider, and so those deed riders are not very specific about, it doesn't say anything about it going to the housing trust. It goes to the town. And I think that it makes sense for us to ask for it to be applied to housing, because obviously the windfall is because of the loss of that moderate income unit.
Right. Okay, so we have to meet for Leon? to raise the-
Well, no, I think part of the discussion for us today, is whether that might be a source of funds if we were to restart, a home repair program.
Okay, do you know if anything is currently, that the funds are currently supporting for being used for? Is the money coming out?
The funds currently have no, like, status other than that they're funds held by the town.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
Yep.
You're saying they're not
And just-
committed to any specific.
They're not committed
use.
to anything, right, exactly, they're not committed to any specific use. And as far as I understand, there are no strings attached to those funds. But like I said, Leon is gonna wanna have a formal request so that he can run all of that by town council. And just by way of, so I'm sort of like skipping ahead in our agenda
I
here,
have
but
a
it seems
citizen's
appropriate.
comment.
I'm sorry,
I
I'm
still,
sorry.
I still have a citizen's comment.
No, well, I mean, I don't want to be interrupted. I'll let you comment after I'm done talking, but, just by way of context, if you all remember, we set up the, this might have predated you, I'm not sure, but remember when we set up the previous rounds of the home repair program? Remember when we gave grants to people for $5,000 for repairs for their homes? The funds for that came from money that had come to the town over a number of years on the resale fees from when affordable homes sold. And I don't know if you guys recall that, but there had been money that had been accumulated by the town over, I don't know, probably 15 years or so. And Donna Vanderklok had brought this to our attention when she was the town manager and suggested it could be used by the trust for housing purposes. And that's when we developed the home repair program the first time around. And those funds were great because they weren't CPA sourced, so that it gave us some more flexibility in how we ran the program. So, I mean, my thought on this is that there is definitely precedent for using these type of funds for a grant program.
okay.
That's not the only thing that it could be used. Yes, Susan?
$5,000 was a ceiling that we imposed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And if you remember, we went through just like going back in time, Christine, when we looked at this, what year was the first running of that grant program? It was like
2017 and 2019, I think.
Yeah. So the first time we set up the program, I remember we did a pretty thorough job of, the RHSO showed us a bunch of different programs that were being run by different towns and how they ran them, and we kind of went through our criteria, and that's how we set the sort of relatively low caps, because we serve a number of homeowners. And we also didn't have much money. I can't remember how much we started with, but it was something like $80,000.
600 isn't much different,
Right, if we were to want to,
relatively
Yeah.
speaking,
Yeah.
given the
Yeah.
costs we're hearing now.
right, exactly. So I'm sorry, Diana, did you want to have a public comment?
Yes, one additional public comment based on the discussion. Since we have an RHSO representative here, I'm just curious, we're probably not the first, town to manage this sort of concern and issue, and I'm wondering what other towns do about it, because it's, houses need to be maintained the moment they get built, so it can't be a big surprise that houses need to be maintained, and especially homeowners who need assistance or can't maintain them. We probably should be baking that into the program, as I'm sure other towns do. And I was curious if you had any information what other towns do in this situation.
If you don't mind, since Christine's really new to the RHSO, I'm going to give you a hand. So when we were last looking, there are two aspects to this. One is a number of area towns have something similar to a home repair program. Some of them run the way ours did previously, which is a grant program, which does not have to be paid back. Some of them run as loan programs where they can loan more dollars, but then they often will be a mortgage recorded at the registry of deeds, and then an obligation to repay usually at the time of the resale. And then on the other hand, there's also a few towns have done what Weston did at our last town meeting, where an affordable housing complex went to the CPA, to the CPC for CPA funds to help with some extraordinary repairs that had cropped up on Miriam Village.
So extraordinary repairs can't be deferred maintenance, in other words.
Correct, yep. And then there was a discussion and a town council opinion weighing in on the choice of using CPA funds for that project, which was deemed eligible and has been done in other communities as well. There's a lot of programs like that happen at the city level. So like the city of Cambridge has used a combination of CPA funds and then a bunch of other affordable housing support funds that help preserve, do rehabs of large buildings when they're sort of at the end of their useful life. And so that's another way of dealing with those issues.
What was the distinction between maintenance and repairs?
I
Yeah,
can answer
there was,
that.
there's a bunch of guidance from the Inspector General on
Right.
that issue. And so the work that was proposed by the Miriam Village fit under the category that the Inspector General says
I
is.
remember we had that discussion.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
were there
remember-
for that, right? You
Yeah,
were on the committee,
I don't
yeah.
remember what the breaking point was, what could be, and what couldn't.
I just remember it was complicated and it was looked at carefully, so, yeah. If there were, this is kind of more than I was expected to talk about today about Dixon Meadows specifically, but big picture, because I think it's important to us thinking about if we do a grant program. Big picture, I think that it makes sense in a common sense way that Dixon Meadows could present information to us and then to the CPC for particular replacements that might be CPA eligible, and request funds that cover the percentage or the assessments for the deed restricted units there. CPA uses only allow it for up to 100% AMI. So I think that the moderate income unit owner would not be able to benefit from that, which is unfortunate, but I think that's just my guess. but it could be that it covers the assessments for the affordable units. That's just but it's a concept, like I don't know, somebody else is gonna have to tell us if that works, right? And for the unit owners, right, then the unit owners' repairs that are at issue, maybe they could apply for a grant if we do a grant program.
One of the distinctions had to do with systems, plumbing, electrical, that threatened the existence or the health of the unit or the occupants versus, needing a new coat of paint or that sort of thing. One was eligible, one was not eligible. And you might want to talk to Ken Newberg from Marion Village.
Yeah, that's what I had suggested to Peters. The next call was to talk to Ken, because he did the work there.
He could run you through what they have done there, what was eligible, what was not eligible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Susan, Buzzy, Michael, any questions on what we're talking about so far?
Well, as long as I open Pandora's box by asking about the homeowner's fund, it really bothers me to know that there's $600,000 somewhere sitting, and we haven't figured out a way, or now that we will now figure out a way of how to best use those funds, how much we're entitled to, and for what they can be used for. I mean, has anybody else that you know of tapped into that $600,000?
No. And
Okay.
and just so you know, I have had several conversations with Leon about
Yeah.
the existence of the money.
Yeah?
And there's no, how do I say this? On a personal level, I think Leon is quite committed to assisting the Housing Trust in finding a way to propose something to do with those funds that relates to our mission.
Yeah, okay.
Does that make
All right.
sense? Nobody else is grabbing at it. That I'm aware of.
So just thinking, kind of big picture again, this is a flaw in the process for all homeowner, affordable housing units, sometimes unique to Weston. So is this somewhat of a cautionary tale on how Habitat for Humanity moves ahead and what kind of money shall be setting aside for 10, 20 years down the line for maintenance?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point. As you'll remember, for Habitat, we are insisting on a certain dollar amount being put into the association to start with, to fund those accounts, but, and, I mean, the question always is it enough?
Yeah.
I was going to go there too.
Yeah.
Because that is part of the discussion that's been had, and they prepared documents. And again, that's another thing that we could refer to in
Mhm.
terms of, unfortunately, past circumstances versus ones developing in the future.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot to be said, but
I mean,
it may be that no one else knows about that $600,000.
Well,
If they did,
yeah.
they might ask for something.
they could. I'll definitely make sure Leon has us on speed dial if there's competition for the funds, but, I mean, I think the other thing is, realize that, the question of, what to do with those windfall funds should be thought of, carefully, so that we feel like, it's the best use. I mean, in some ways, I think it would be kind of elegant to be able to offer those funds to owners who are struggling with necessary assessments for a property that's, kind of at that tipping point of needing these major replacements.
And determining what eligibility should be required
Mhm.
to qualify.
Yeah,
I mean, my condominium, all 3 units, 2 years ago, we doubled our monthly fee because it became very clear that what we had contributed was not covering maintenance. our fee was very low to begin with. Doubling it was not a breaking condition, but it may be very different in Dixon Meadows.
Well, we don't defer maintenance at all. When repairs are needed, that's when they're done. There's no deferred maintenance. That said, when it comes to a homeowner responsibility, that's where I'm kind of focused in on.
And the deed documents which define what is yours, what is theirs, what is ours, that plays into it, and there is no standard condominium document.
That is true.
And from what Peter's describing, these ones were very, very, very specific. You know, there's a gradation from the very general ones to the very specific, and they got into the detail there, so. Yeah, I mean, I'm skipping over the minutes for just, so on our agenda, I'm looking at we're talking sort of generally about a home repair small grants program. If it's okay with folks if I sort of shift to that discussion. So we have talked on and off, as you all remember, about restarting the home repair grant program. I hadn't recalled that we hadn't run it since 2019. It seems like more recently. And it was not necessarily super easy to administer, but Christine, you have spoken to Liz Rust about that, and she said, we can do it.
Yeah, so she gave me a list of towns. At the time that she presented to you all, she had, I think that there were 3 other towns that RHSO was running grants for, and I think now it's up to 5 or 6.
Oh, good.
So I think,
Yeah.
I think that they've got a better system in place maybe now.
Yeah. And then what you were really helpful, and you sent it to me, I didn't circulate this, but there's just like a little matrix here. I'll read it to you guys. I'm sorry guys, this is just a little chart that Christine put together. It's pretty simple, but it's just reviewing what we did in the past for the small grant program. You want to pass this down to Peter? Oh, thanks, Christine.
Sure. I have one too, actually. I didn't know.
So, remember it was a grant, so it was not to be repaid. To be eligible, the property restricted. And I'm just going to point that out because there are some towns that apparently don't require a property to be deed restricted.
Right. So it has to be less than 100% of the median assessment or 80% of the median assessment.
And so the concept there is for
primarily, say, like an elderly homeowner who is struggling to pay repairs on their retirement, but the home is worth it's not the largest home in town, it's not the tiniest home in town, but it's sort of in that range where the person wants to stay in town but is really struggling to keep up.
Okay. And so the time when we've run the program, we specifically were tailoring it to deed restricted properties with the idea that we were assisting the property as much as the owner, if you remember that discussion. Yeah. So, I mean, we can talk about that again. The eligibility of the homeowner, so the homeowner had to be income eligible as well. So their income eligibility was set at 150% of the AMI. So right now, just as a benchmark for 2022, a household of 1 could earn up to 147, household of 2 up to 168, household of 3 up to 189, and a household of 4 up to 210. I'm just rounding up those numbers, just for reference point. We did grants up to 5,000. You know, question how much we would set as a limit this time if we were doing it again. The last times we ran the grant, we had, was it 7 both times? 7 grants?
So maybe there was another year that I didn't see in the folder, if you think you did it more recently.
I think we did it. Well, I don't know if we did it more recently, but I think we did more than 7 grants. I thought it was like something 5 each time, but maybe not.
I can double check.
You know what it might have been, there were a few that we granted them, but then the homeowner never followed through to get the repairs.
That's exactly what.
Oh.
Yeah, do you remember that? Yeah, it was unfortunate.
I did see several
Yeah.
of the repairs were humongous, and so 5,000 wouldn't have come even close to helping them get
That
them
might
done.
have been the case. Or there might have been some issues with getting contractors to do the work because the work was so minimal or something. So that's interesting. But I remember we didn't really turn many people away. I think we only had like a few applicants each time who were asking for things that didn't fall under our rubric for
Yeah.
concern, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, the criteria was listed as applications to be evaluated and prioritized based on health and safety considerations, financial need of the applicant, prior awards, and availability of grant funds.
Prior awards to the.
To that
homeowner.
person, yeah. So the concept was that we didn't want to grant to the same homeowner multiple times.
There was no requirement that the work actually be done?
Oh, there was. The funds were being paid to the contractor.
Okay.
So this doesn't describe the whole process for the application. So the person would apply with a copy of an estimate from a licensed contractor.
Okay, that makes a difference.
They would give they'd provide the financial information to, it was Liz who administered it, a brief description of their family circumstances as to why they needed the funds. And then we sat and we reviewed everybody's applications. We agreed to grants, and then there was a simple one-page grant agreement that was signed. And then when the work was done, an invoice was submitted, and then the town directly paid the contractor for the work.
And the consideration was by the trust as a whole
The trust as a whole,
for each one?
yeah. Thoughts about that, Neil?
Pardon?
Thoughts about that?
If there are dozens of applications, that's
Yeah, I
gonna
mean,
get kind of complicated and time-consuming.
yeah, I mean, what do you all recall about that process? Susan?
I just recall, we were saying before that, it was difficult for some homeowners to follow through getting estimates. I don't really recall a huge demand. I thought things kind of withered on the vine because people were coming forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why we didn't vigorously, reinstitute the grant program right away, because we had the feeling like, well, it wasn't quite what we were expecting. And I remember that there was a real effort to get the word out.
Yeah. I think we told realtors, we told,
Council on Aging had it posted, yeah. The town was doing their blast. It could have been a timing thing, 2019, 2017, and 19 were a little better than they are today.
I can think of other issues, but I don't
Mhm.
think now's the time to
Yeah,
go into the details.
yeah. So, I think the one, I wanted to start the conversation, we don't have to do more than start to have this percolate, maybe bring it up again at our next meeting. My kind of initial thoughts are, I still feel within our purpose that we should restrict the program to deed restricted properties. Because I don't know, I know other homeowners out there are in need, but it feels like they're sort of pushing sensibilities there as to what the public money is being used for.
Since it's under Affordable Housing Trust, that seems appropriate.
Correct. If we were together with the Council on Aging, for example,
Or the town
or
in general.
the town in general, then you could see it being a larger program.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
that limitation.
yeah.
The other thing that I was going to
There
say,
also might have been some tension or some discussion with, maybe
But there could have been like a matching grant or something?
I don't think so much of a matching grant. I think, yeah, their group and our group didn't want to be competing for the same money, and,
Okay.
that's a potential problem.
Hmm,
But I think our conversation was very helpful. See how.
okay. To see how they're, yeah, what they're doing. That's interesting.
The other thing that occurred to me was, if you have to find a contractor, do you have to find 3 contractors because there's public
No.
funding?
No,
I
Because
think one of the years they did.
finding,
one of the years they had to find 3
I
contractors.
think they did, they had to show
They had
that
to call, they had to call.
that the estimate was reasonable.
it's not an unusual requirement, certainly anything the
Right.
town builds, we have to do that. But that's because there's public funds involved.
Maybe it was at the 5,000 threshold, I was thinking that there was less of a requirement. Can we just,
That could be.
I'll check.
the problem is who
Because
to
now
ask
it's a-
in town
I think it's
hall
a
now.
$20,000
Right,
threshold now. So
Right.
It's way over.
way over this one, right,
Even the, you know, you're suggesting 10,
right.
which I
mean,
think
there
may be
was-
too low.
There was a requirement, I think, that the contractor couldn't be a family member, for example.
But
They had to be a licensed contractor and not,
just
third
finding
party.
someone to do some work on my condominium, I had to give it up because
Yeah.
I couldn't find anyone. It was too small. So
Right.
who was interested?
Right. So that could be something to work on. And then I think the question would be, what would the appropriate grant cap amount be? And that could be that could be a question also about how much of this windfall, pot of funds would the trust want to request for running a program like this? If we were to say 10,000 per grant and hope for 10 good applicants, ask for $100,000. I'm just throwing concepts out there.
It's really hard to say, and $10,000 today is a whole lot less than $5,000 was 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like too much, you think, for a grant?
I think it's too small.
You think it's too small?
I mean, inflation
Mm-hmm.
and conditions and circumstances, you can't get for 10,000 what you might have been able to get for 5,000 4 years ago. I mean, you heard the window
Can we move
estimate.
on?
Yes, we can, Buzzy.
I think we should.
Okay, let's vote on our minutes. Did everybody have a chance to see these? Christine sent along with the agenda. These are minutes for Monday, February 27th.
I had one question. Under the sunrise, was Tom saying that they could get a lease and manage the property, or was only saying that they would get an agreement to manage the property? I recall.
I'm sorry, what's the distinction? I'm confused.
A lease is relative to ownership. Management is a service, it can be contract.
They were talking about doing both.
Yeah, I'm wondering
Right.
if he was saying both.
He
or-
did say both, yeah.
Okay, because all
Yeah.
I recalled was the management aspect.
Oh, yeah, no, he definitely was talking about both. Because they're trying to figure out if there's any issues with the long-term lease concept for state procurement law.
Okay.
Because a long-term lease may be in too much of a tie between the,
Okay,
Public and private.
I missed that.
Okay,
aspect of
yeah.
this comment.
yeah. That's why there's a discussion with town council to review that sort of structure.
Got it.
So, any other questions or comments on the minutes? I am hearing none. Is there a motion to approve our minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
I second it.
Thank you, Buzzy.
Welcome.
All in favor? Aye.
Bye.
I heard Michael. Buzzy? Oh, you
Yeah.
have to, yep, you seconded. Great, thank you. Just a brief update, I'm not sure if any of you were on the HPP implementation committee meeting. I don't remember.
I was there.
I'm sorry?
I was
You were there, yeah.
attending.
I missed that, as you may recall.
No, don't be sorry, I also notified everybody, I sent the last notice really late. We had a very thorough reviewing of maps that Imai presented to us, where he's drawn circles around the MBTA stations in order to try to visualize where we might be able to propose a new multifamily district that would comply with the housing choice legislation requirements. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? Everybody's familiar? Yes, great. We had a lengthy sort of review of lot by lot options of where such a district could be that wouldn't essentially rezone existing single family neighborhoods, is how I would put it. And it's very, very difficult to see that there's anywhere, including areas around, Church Street, Kendall, around the Kendall station, that actually comply with all of the requirements of the law. The Boston Properties site, there's only a section of it at the rear, which was the area where the housing was proposed back in 2018. That section at the rear would comply, it falls within the concentric circle, but it is not enough acreage to meet the requirement that 25 of the acres be all contiguous. I think it's 25, right? 25 of the 50 have to all be next to each other. Even if you attach some of the land that's owned by the town that abuts that, which was mostly area where like the solar array are.
Yes, it's the dump.
The dump, but the portion of the dump that has the solar array on it,
Which
right?
is most
Dump.
of it.
Yeah, former dump,
And
right?
I don't think it would qualify for construction as it stands.
Right, that's another question, right. But even if you count that area, we're still not in a situation where, again, where we're finding a district that complies with the rules and is not already single-family homes. And so the kind of interim preliminary assessment of that group was that Weston does not want to be how did we put it? We didn't want to be going out ahead of the pack and trying to comply with the law. That if the penalties for non-action become more severe, then the town might reconsider it. But at this point, there was not any appetite to push forward.
It would be difficult to justify going to town meeting.
It would be very difficult to justify, yeah. So, I mean, if you all have, concerns about that, you want to see the maps yourselves, go through the exercise with Imai, he would be happy to meet with us again. If anybody in the room is going to be, I think my guess is if anybody in town is going to be willing to push this further, it would be our group. But just, and not that, you guys think whatever you want, but I actually shared the feeling in the group, which was that what was being proposed was going to be so kind of drastic that it would not be beneficial to the town when you look at literally where those locations would have to be.
There's one other thing that I think needs to be settled one way or the other, is whether we have 3 locations, 3 stations, or 1.
We have 3 stations. The
Well-
map is based on what DHCD is telling us we have. So
Okay, 'cause
until,
that
that-
was the question, because
yeah, we
people
actually
said
have 4 stations because there's a
Silver
little,
Hill and Hastings are no longer stations.
that's not true, they're no longer being used.
That was my
Right.
contention.
No, so at this moment, the guidance from the state is These are your stations,
Got
these
it.
are your locations. So it's the northern stations, and then there's also a little sliver of land on the south of Weston that's within the half-mile radius of the Wellesley Hills MBTA stop.
That's right. I forgot about
But that's so small that it could be one of the districts, but it doesn't come close to a 25-acre area. Riverside is not one of our concentric circles. I'm sorry, the Liberty Mutual site, which we thought might be, is not. And the state, kind of deemed that to be true, which is a mixed bag. One, it would have been helpful conceivably. But on the other hand, it was going to up our housing requirements significantly. So by taking Riverside off the list of stations that we abut, it actually helped our compliance requirements.
But the Wellesley Hills one throws that back up into the air in a sense.
It doesn't
Is
because
that
of the
really-
type of station, I think. I don't know. There was something, I can't remember if it was
It's a
Oh, the
tiny
commuter
little-
rail is different from the regular T
yeah,
stop.
that's what it is, because Riverside is a regular T-stop, so that was gonna change the nature of our,
Right, that's
of
a
our
T stop,
requirement.
but the Wellesley Hills is a commuter rail stop, not a T stop.
Right,
Right.
But so are the other three.
right, so there's, it doesn't change our housing requirement, the Wellesley stop, it just gives another location that we could put it.
Okay. Doesn't change the requirement, it only changes
The location
the
that it could
number
be
of
put.
locations.
Yeah, the available
And
locations.
it certainly isn't any easier to rezone that than
Right.
anything else in town.
Anything you folks want to discuss on this?
I think the HPP meeting's assessment is correct. That we don't have any place in town that offers an opportunity under the requirements to provide what's being asked for. And I'm not sure there's any way to take any zoning change to town meeting that will pass muster. So it's really going to depend on how aggressive the state becomes in terms of restricting the use of public lands.
Michael?
We're gonna lose battery on this phone, so we're gonna
Oh,
go
boy.
to, wait a minute, no, so we're gonna go and pick up the other phone so that we can continue on. It's too bad that we're being fined for non-compliance in the future when there isn't anything we can do about it.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, there
honestly,
is,
there
but-
is, and it would just require the town, a committee being willing to push it forward, and then the town being willing to vote to change the zoning of existing single-family home sites. You know what I mean, Buzzy?
Yep,
But that's just, it
Okay.
feels unpalatable.
Politically untenable.
Politically untenable, yeah.
yeah, it is. Okay.
Okay, moving forward, so,
You're gonna change phones?
Yep, we're
You're
about to
changing-
get a new phone, yep,
Go
okay,
ahead.
awesome.
we're fine.
Next, updates on 1 to 11 Wellesley Street. I don't have any. I checked in with Jerry, and he was, Jerry Patton, and he didn't have a lot to say. He said everything's going quote unquote very well. They have another hearing coming up. I don't recall the hearing date, but we will get that and we'll notify you also in case anybody can
Planning board?
attend. With the zoning board,
Zoning board.
yep.
This is their third public hearing, Sarah?
This is their third public hearing.
Yeah, if I could find out those dates, that'd be great.
Yes. Do you mind helping me do that?
Sure, yeah.
We can also look at the ZBA, instead of putting it on you, we can look at the ZBA agenda.
Yeah.
I can look at
Could you? That'd be great, thank you. The only last sort of update that I had from Jerry was that they worked out the concerns about bus drop-off and pickup to the site, which was great. I had put them in touch with the woman who's in charge of the routes And initially, they had been concerned about the, you know, the travel time, et cetera, but the bus is gonna pick up at the location, right out on the street in front of the driveway, which was the
That's great.
preferred situation, yeah, which is great, yeah.
There are enough, theoretically, going to be enough kids there that
Yeah, exactly,
they
yeah,
don't want them walking.
right, yep. So
Not
I
to
think
mention that they're pretty close to some of the schools anyway.
yeah, so the last thing on my list with the Habitat folks is we have the additional funds that we've promised them for the project. If you remember, we paid them $90,000 with the pre-development costs, and then we're gonna pay the balance of $360,000 for the rest of the project. And
Once they begin
Liz
construction.
Rustin, yeah, so Liz Rust and I had talked to our counsel, Kathleen, about what to propose for when those payments would be made, because you didn't want to give them all out at the beginning.
Right.
And so we had kind of floated a schedule of payments to Jerry. Jerry got back to us with, well, could you pay a little bit more up front? I don't have those numbers for you today, but at the next meeting, maybe we can discuss how we want to proceed on that.
That would be good, because
Yeah.
I'd like to see his proposal.
Yeah, and we had proposed conceptually that each payment would be made with each unit. Like there would be a chunk paid for construction costs, and then the balance, you know, I can't remember, like 150,000 or so would be paid out with each unit's completion and sale. With a portion of it going,
Which is complete.
yeah, with a portion of it going into the condo association budget,
Yeah.
so that we ensured that that budget was, you know, was funded.
And they wanted more money in order to deal with contractors.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm not concerned about us being able to reach some kind of agreement. They'll do whatever we can come up with. And then we need to just finalize a development agreement, but I'll have the lawyer work on the draft, and we'll circulate it to everybody before we have a discussion about it.
That would be good. And as soon as they, well, if you have his suggestion that you have enough information to start dispersing this for us to look at.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And we wouldn't disperse any funds until they have their comprehensive permit.
Right,
Right. Exactly.
that certainly
Yep.
makes sense.
Yep. So folks, I don't have anything else for today, except for that we have to schedule our next meeting, because I don't think we've scheduled.
Um,
So nothing has been decided at the state level. I think the House has passed something that includes a provision to extend Zoom if you would want it, but it hasn't been passed by the Senate
To
yet.
extend what?
Zoom or a virtual, like a
Oh.
hybrid meeting past the end of March. At the moment, we can't do that,
Wait, so we can't do Zoom meetings now?
unless this gets passed
I see.
after the end of March. But
Okay.
it seems like it will pass, but it hasn't happened yet.
But it has to happen before the end of March, if there is.
It's
Right.
creeping up on us, yeah.
And we had wanted to be meeting in person at this point. I think the only question was whether we were gonna be required to do some kind of hybrid, right?
Required or permitted.
Well, we're permitted to do hybrid.
Now, but after
Right.
the 31st.
The question is
of March.
whether it would be required, right? So I was looking at the first week in April?
It's gonna be
On the
April
third.
3rd.
Either April 3rd or April 4th.
Good for me, either one.
Buzzy and Michael?
Wait a minute, I'm trying to get my calendar. Let's see, April 3rd, April 4th. It's, both of them are iffy, but if I can portably take my phone somewhere, I won't be I'll be at the airport. So,
That doesn't sound so good. What about
well,
the next week? What about
the 4th, I'll be home. I mean, the 4th, it's just that so many people are coming to my house that I'll just have to find a room. But the 4th would probably be better than the 3rd. although I suppose I could do the 3rd, but I'm not as confident of that.
How about the following week, the 10th or the 11th?
That's fine, I'll be here.
The 11th is out for me, I can do 10.
Neil?
Yeah, either set of Monday.
Let's do
Tuesday.
April 10th,
Okay.
8:30
Here in theory,
here, unless you hear otherwise.
and not in spirit.
I don't know why I have Hartford, Connecticut calling me.
Oh, I was born there. I lived a long time.
Oh,
There you go.
that's cool, I didn't know that.
Born-
Hartford.
Hartford,
Oh,
Connecticut.
Nice town.
Okay, everybody.
Has a great merry-go-round.
I
Yeah.
would schedule more meetings out, but because Tom's not here, I think I'd rather we wait until next meeting, then we'll try to schedule like two to three meetings ahead.
That's okay.
Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah,
Good.
the
Awesome.
10th is not too far
Okay,
into the
great.
future.
I don't think so.
I mean, today is the 13th.
And we can do some more, we've got some homework to do in the
Yeah.
next,
Yeah.
hopefully maybe we can get the
That's a
ADU
month.
back into discussion.
Yeah.
Susan, let's try to talk about ADUs in depth at our next meeting.
That would be wonderful.
Would that be
Yeah.
good? Let's try to, let's really, we have to do a little homework before we do that, but
We
let's.
don't want
let's
to
do
lose that.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, everybody.
Yeah.
See you. Thank you, everyone.
I vote
Yeah,
that
bye-bye.
we adjourn.
Neil just voted we adjourned. Bye.
Okay.
Do you like our formalities, Peter?
I think it's